Hey, this is Sky. Welcome to my YouTube channel. It's bright and early, daily discipline, mind, body, and soul. This is how we get through. It's Sunday. I want to get into my Sunday study group for warriors, my hardcore heads. Many of you just want to sleep in all day. Just go back to sleep. Some of us are up early, bright and early, getting our things done, working out, studying, praying, trying to make ourselves better people. Let's get into it. I got a nice big list of notes. This is from my drawing board. I have a drawing board in my shop where we do a lot of artwork and draw up ideas and things like that. And I was listening to a conversation on YouTube. I listen to a lot of conversations and podcasts and stuff while I'm at work. And it was really interesting. It was this guy, Dr. Ian McGilchrist, who's British, very, very British, and he is talking about the brain. And I forget the guy he was having a conversation with, doesn't matter, but let's just get into some of this stuff. First thing I want to talk about is right versus left brain. You know, this is a whole world. I could stay on this topic for an hour. The right brain versus the left brain. And you may have heard some of this stuff before. Your left brain is more creative, your right brain is more analytical, more rational. And there's a whole host of emotions that are tied to each side of the brain, a whole host of personality traits that can be linked to different sides of your brain. We like to think that we're well-rounded people, that we're 50-50. I'm a little bit creative, a little bit analytical, I can be soft, I can be hard. But most men, oddly enough, this has been studied by psychiatrists, statistically speaking, most men have a bigger right brain than left brain. So it's measurable. They can actually measure the sides of your brain. And most men think and live in their right brain more than they live in their left brain. Not that they don't have a left brain ability, they just are more right brain. And for women, it's the exact opposite. Women are more left brain, and their left side of their brain is larger, physically larger, and they spend more time thinking in the left brain. This also bleeds over into the conversation of masculinity and femininity. Femininity is more left brain than right brain. This can explain when you meet a woman or a man who's particularly masculine or feminine, and it maybe goes against the norm, the social norm, or the biological norm, that they might have a different kind of brain than the rest of their gender. A masculine woman may have a larger right brain than left brain. Not that she has a man's brain, but nonetheless, this explains a lot. You may find this right brain versus left brain amongst right and left thinking people. The liberals versus the Republicans. Liberals are more left brain, Republicans are more right brain. This right versus left brain is a big issue, and in fact, we're having a battle to decide which one dominates. It may be a battle within you. It also may be what's actually going on here. You wonder, well, why is society so fucked up? Why has it been so fucked up for all of human history? Maybe this is what's going on. This is the fight. We're fighting to find out who's going to rule the world, the right or the left. The right or left brain. Let's go to the next one. Each one of these is just meant for you to think about. I have so much, I don't know if I'm going to get through them all. I have to go through some of these a little quick. Let's talk more about the brain. Different hemispheres of the brain perceive the world differently. This kind of goes along with the right brain versus left brain idea. I think that's important to know, that if you are living in one part of your brain as opposed to the other, we're talking scientifically speaking, where you're thinking out of, say, for example, the amygdala, your frontal cortex, then you literally see the world differently. You're living in a different reality. You're perceiving reality differently than other people. And the different areas of your brain help affect your reality. You know what also affects your reality is your language. If you learn how to be articulate, you can expand your perception. You have a deeper, wider perception of the world when you're more articulate. They found this studying languages, for example, Russians. Russians don't have a color blue. They have a bunch of different words for different shades of blue, but they don't have just a general word for blue. Yeah, that's blue. What color is that? That's blue. They don't have that word. In Russian, there's light blue, slightly lighter blue, slightly dark blue, darker blue. They have all these different kinds of words for blue. And in result, because they don't just have some one catch-all word like most of us have for blue, they can perceive, physically perceive with their eyes, with the spectrum inside their cornea, they can actually perceive different shades of blue at a greater rate than other cultures, simply because of their language. Their language determines their perception. It's interesting how the brain works. Let's go to the next one. Oddly enough, here's the next one. Poetry exercises both sides of the brain. Because you have to think about what's being said, put it together, think about all the nuances. Poetry is the art of saying very little, but making your mind work a lot, saying a whole story in one sentence. And as you hear the words and the whole scene unfolds in your mind, you're actually working both sides of your brain. I find that interesting. Let's go to the next one. 90% of the brain constantly tries to inhibit reality. This is happening to you right now. This is happening to all of us all the time. 90% of your brain is working against you and trying to feed you lies, right? It's trying to inhibit reality, to change reality, to alter reality, to put a filter over reality. You do this naturally, you can't control it, as a survival tactic. We've learned this from our caveman days. Could we handle reality? If 90% of our brain is constantly trying to inhibit our reality, could you imagine what it would be like to be 100% in reality just for a day? I don't even think we have any clue of what's really going on around us if we're only living through 10% of our perception, and the rest of our brain is trying to sabotage us. Let's go to the next one. This is still kind of connected. Reality is what you focus on or pay attention to. So we all have this idea of the truth. We all have this idea of what's really going on. But reality of what's real is really up to your focus, your narrow little focus. This is why when a car crash happens and you have a bunch of people on a street corner, 10 people can tell 10 different stories because they're all focused on different things with their narrow perception. Partly it's biological because our eyes are narrow together and pointed forward. We don't have a large peripheral view, but also because of the way that our specific type of creature, the way that humans have adapted to the world around us because of navigation, prey and predator and this whole kind of world of survival, we pinpoint. We don't have this broad spectrum of view where we can pinpoint anything in our peripherals. We have to narrow focus. So every single person is narrow focusing, and every single person has a different reality. That's your individualism right there. Let's go to the next one. I've been thinking about this for a long time, and it was interesting that they mentioned it in the podcast that I was watching about the brain. Scientists have been thinking about this stuff a lot for generations. The world comes about as you look at it. So the theory is that reality unfolds as you look at it. The kitchen, the living room, the rest of the house that I'm looking at unfolds as it comes into my perspective. It's created as I'm looking at it. And when I'm looking away, it literally doesn't exist. It only exists when I experience it, when I interact with it. The world becomes what it is for you as you interpret it. So the world becomes The world comes about as you look at it, and the reality is really something specific to you because it's part of your interpretation. Let's go to the next one. I hope I can talk about this properly. This is complicated. There's a difference between a complicated system and a complex system. I just have to go through this quick because this could take a long time. So you guys just have to think about this if you're interested. A complex system, for example, would be the world. The world is a complex system. A complex system is something that it has random outcomes that can't be predicted, and the world is random and unpredictable. A jet engine, on the other hand, is a complicated system. So the world, planet Earth, is complex. A jet engine is just complicated. It's not complex because it's not random. It has no random outcomes. It has a predetermined outcome. You put it together in a certain way as long as you know how it's put together, and it's a very complicated system. But there's mechanics that can do it. And as long as you put an engine together right, it works. You have to really think about complicated systems versus complex systems. Let's go on to the next one. Science and religion. Right? Those are the two groups that try to explain everything. Your church and your teacher, the scientist and the priest. But as smart as both of them are, as smart as science and religion is, neither of them can explain love or beauty. Isn't that interesting? Neither the scientist nor the priest can explain what love or beauty is. A poet can do that, though. A poet can explain what love and beauty is. Let's talk about power. Some people see power as all there is. All there is power. We're living in a world of power. There's a power dynamic, and people who have power control the world, and people who don't have power are being controlled. This is a particularly postmodernist view. Fantasia the movie is an example of power. And everybody seems to want power. Everybody's fighting to be power. Everybody wants to be powerful. Everybody wants to be boss. Everybody wants to be rich. Everybody wants to be popular. Everybody wants power in different forms. The power, it's useless, if not completely dangerous, in the hands of a fool. That movie Fantasia, that's what that was about. Let's try to fit one or two more in, we're done. The coincidence of opposites. I think that's kind of interesting. There's a theory of the coincidence of opposites, where if you push in an opposite direction away from something that you despise or detest, if you push far enough, you come full circle and become what you despised. So for example, there's cops, people who become police officers in order to fight crime, and they hate crime, they hate criminals, they hate them so much, they hate crime, they hate criminals, they study them. And in that process, they become so close to being criminals. Some of them actually become criminals. Some cops have a hard time walking that line. It's a fine line between a cop and a criminal. But some cops, they become such do-gooders where they become criminals. Kind of saw this play out in one of the old Superman comics, where Superman becomes tyrannical and somewhat evil and somewhat dangerous because of his frustration of being such a do-gooder and protecting planet Earth. In fact, he moves off Earth up into a space station and stands down looking at Earth with contempt and thinking about humans. This is the guy who was tasked to be a do-gooder, turns into the very problem. You see this with politics. You get the extreme right and the extreme left. See, we're back full circle, right and left. And they go in such opposite directions. The right hates the left hates the right. And they push further and further in opposite directions, and then you end up with Antifa and the Proud Boys. And they fight in the streets all day long, and they end up the same. They're sitting in the same prison cells right now. I think we ran out of time. It's all food for thought. Thanks for watching.